the fourth quarter of the fiscal year. So it's through July 31st. I'm sorry, through June 30th. So it doesn't include July. Up through the end of July, we had a pretty substantial increase in, as we know, we've been talking about this for a long time, particularly in violent crime in the city. Our main issue that's driving the violence increase is non-domestic aggravated assaults. The top areas for violent crime during the quarter are a little bit different than what they were last year. During the last quarter of this year, the violent crime top 5 locations was Aston Towers, Pisgah View Apartments, downtown Hillcrest, and then Biltmore at South Charlotte Street. In the past month, we've put a huge emphasis on officer time, and crime prevention activities in those areas, and we are starting to see some positive effects of that. But it's still a challenge. It's going to be an ongoing challenge for us for the rest of the year. Overall, our Part 1 crime is up 13% for this year, which is also an increase in the non-violent Part 1 crime, particularly driven by larcenies. And actually, I think shoplifting is the main increase there. Shoplifting is one of those things where if the loss prevention people are more active, we get an increase in the number of shoplifting cases. And so you can kind of maybe look at that as being maybe positive or negative, it just depends. But that's where the primary increase is in non-violent Part 1 crime.
So,
Yeah.
Chief, you said this past quarter was getting a little bit better with violent crime, but this is year to date, right?
This is year to date, and actually that quarter did not get better. The past month has been better.
Okay,
but up through the second quarter of 2018, we've had a substantial increase, and particularly the non-domestic aggravated assaults. And we struggle to try to address that. And the main success that we have is officers spending more time in communities where we have that. And so, as I said, we've had a change this year compared to last year and where we see those. So last year we had like a lot of aggravated assault activity occurring in that Livingston area. That has not happened this year to that degree. Now Aston Towers has been the primary location this year. So that's been part of, even in the past couple of weeks, a substantial increase in the amount of time officers are spending, particularly in that entire South French Broad corridor. We did put out our fourth quarter traffic stop report, which we do on the fiscal. In this report, we've added some additional information that the request of our partners at the NAACP Criminal Justice Committee. They asked for us to include in our traffic stop report maps that show the locations of where white drivers are stopped and searched, as well as where black drivers are stopped and searched. So those are new things that have been added to this report that you can take a look at. We don't really have like a lot of analysis on what that means as yet, but I think as this report continues to evolve, we'll try to look at what we can glean out of that information with help from those partners. With this traffic stop report, we have had consistent percentages pretty much over the past year, with about 24 to 25% of our traffic stops being black drivers. We've also looked at that from the perspective of the searches. And as we talk about searches, you all are where we went to Durham a couple weeks ago, talked to them about their consent search policy. Last Friday, I met with PBA and FOP. We have a draft that we're working on, and I also gave them a copy of Durham's policy. So I hope to have that finished up probably in the next week or so to get a pretty good working draft policy. Additionally, we do have all of our traffic stop data already posted on open data. That's part of that project that you all are very aware of. Mr. Haynes, I think you gave additional, data will be put up on that as we're able to do that, to include our calls for service, use of force and citizen complaints. We just, finalized our annual report for 2017. Some of the significant accomplishments for the department in 2017 include 61% decrease in our overall use of force incidents. We have made pretty good progress towards becoming more in line with the 21st century policing. Our officers had a huge amount of training last year, which included de-escalation training for all of our officers. We have started working with the open data. We had a reaccreditation, and also we completed our entire project on the evidence room. So we got that off our plate. I'm pretty happy about that. Tomorrow at the council meeting, you all and the public will hear a report that was completed, that was ordered by the council to conduct an assessment of the response to the excessive force case involving Chris Hickman and John Rush. That will be presented to you by the vendor, 21CP, tomorrow evening. So I'm not gonna get into any details here. I will tell you that there are 8 specific recommendations that they made and that are within the purview of APD, and that we've completed about 7 of those already, and that we'll be looking to try to get that final one lined up. The police department and the city will be giving you a more detailed report about what we've done with their recommendations at the second September council meeting. So you'll get more detailed information on that. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to swear in one of our largest classes of officers to date, but since I've been here, so we have 21 new cadets that we swore in. This is part of our hiring toward being able to expand up the downtown district that we've been talking about for the last year. Our current class is not that big. It's only got 9 cadets, so we hope in this next one in February to be able to put about 25. If we're able to do that, we will be close to making our goal to get that up before the end of next summer. And then finally, community engagement. During this last quarter, we've done quite a bit. Our officers have attended more than 40 community meetings, neighborhood meetings, and various events. Some of those include our Read to Succeed, which was at Piscaview. That was a really fun program. All of our command participated every week on Tuesday mornings to go and read to kids. We had a great deal of fun doing that. We participated in the community engagement socials that were held in public housing. The last 2 were Deerview and Hillcrest. Hillcrest one was pretty big and very successful, I'd say. We did a presentation for a child care network. We've been having ongoing community-related discussions with the IMA around building trust. And most recently, our officers participated in a legal program with the Department of Justice. This is a program that was conducted in partnership with My Daddy Taught Me That and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of North Carolina. APD participated in that, as well as the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office. The program is a youth-oriented program designed to foster interactions between young people and members of the law enforcement community. And so it's a good opportunity to get out and really work back and get the perspective of the youth as well as the law enforcement perspective and share that information. And then since you all participated, some of you in the National Night Out, we had 11 neighborhoods this year that did National Night Out celebrations. We appreciate those of you who are able to participate with us in that. It keeps growing every year, and I think all the events were pretty successful this year because we didn't get a big rainstorm.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And then we continue to do our Coffee with the Cop events. So moving forward, we will be doing another Coffee with the Cop in the next quarter. We also are kicking off a community liaison program where we have assigned our command officers to assist our CROs in the most active neighborhoods that we have in the city. So I think we've got 14 of them that we've assigned. This kicks off at the beginning of September, so right after Labor Day. The liaison officers will be reaching out to the community representatives to talk about what presentation for today. Did you have questions for me?
Well, since there was a delay in us getting the traffic stuff, the numbers, I haven't had a lot of time to look them over. But I do notice that every time we get them, that there's an attachment saying that these aren't really a good way to judge whether or not there's racial disparity in these stops. If this is not a good place to find, if there's racial disparity, where do we look to find that?
Well, I think that, first of all, I would probably present that question to some of the academic people that say that is not a good tool to measure by the population of your overall city demographics. It's not a valid way to measure whether or not there's disparity. And it's not disparity, it's whether there's bias, right? So, I mean, clearly there is disparity. There's disparity in a lot of different ways and things that we do. What we need to drill into and look into, and what we hope to glean when we look at all of this data is there a problem? Is there something that's out of the ordinary? Is there some reason why, like, let's say, there's an exorbitant number of African-American citizens being stopped versus white citizens in a place where they're not represented that way, you know what I mean, in terms of generally in that space. So that's one thing. Another thing that it helps us do, of course, we keep up with the compliance of our officers and completing their traffic stop reports, so it helps us keep up with that. And I think, we like to listen to what our community partners are telling us when we look at this. Maybe we don't need to compare it to our population, but what do we compare it to make it valid? I think we can look at arrest data, we can look at crime data, which is what we've tried to do in this report, is to show that, if we have more stops occurring in places where police are spending more time, that makes sense. If we have more stops occurring in places where we have traffic safety concerns, that makes sense. If we have stops occurring where there's neither of those things happening, maybe we have a problem we need to drill into and look at more carefully. So I think there's a good way for us to use this data and this information to figure out if there's bias issues, but we just have to not take a simple equation that 1 plus this equals that. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And there's a huge body of evidence that says it doesn't work that way.
There's an item on the consent agenda tomorrow. It talks about, I don't know the acronym, maybe high intensity drug traffic
HIDA.
program. Yeah, and we're going in partnership with the federal government in order to stop the high volume of drug trafficking in this area. I wanted to know what impact that'll have on our community and what type of manpower from our police force that will take.
So,
And will it have some type of impact on traffic stops?
So to answer your question, that HIDA agreement is for them to reimburse us for overtime and things that we already are doing. And this is a continuation of an MOU that we've had with them for many years. So we do have sometimes our officers will assist federal agencies with their work. HIDA is just how the federal government looks at different areas. So our HIDA area is actually Atlanta and North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia all together. So it's really not anything extra in addition to what was already happening. It's our ability with them and our partnership with them for them to reimburse us for overtime that we use on any cases that would be involving the federal government. That's what that's for. It's not for
So no
some
strategies,
new thing.
no extra programs.
There's not any new extra thing happening at this point. That's a good question, I guess.
How many APD involved?
Right now, we have one on a task, that's a full-time task force. With PPA, we've lot, this past, I'd say this past quarter, we've seen quite a bit of heroin and fentanyl. Very recently, we've had a fentanyl issue where we had multiple overdoses. And I think if you look on the Narcan report that we included with this, which I didn't talk about, our overdoses are pretty consistent with where they were last year. They're slightly down, but not by much. So we do see a lot of opiates and particularly recently fentanyl. We also have had this year probably a little more methamphetamine than what we had a year ago. And then we do still see crack, but not in great quantities typically. So those are the main drugs that we see when we're doing like maybe a search warrant or something like that. We've also had quite a number of search warrants that have, in addition to drugs, we have 5 guns. So what we will typically see with that is that would be when we might engage ATF or someone like that if we have stolen guns or a large number of guns in the case.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next we have new business, Multimodal Transportation Commission request to establish a Vision Zero task force.
Good afternoon, I'm Jessica Morris. I'm the city's new Assistant Director of the Transportation Department. And the item before you today is a request for your consideration and review, requesting that we establish a equity-based Vision Zero task force. The Multimodal Commission met last week and again recommended that we take this on. Essentially, Vision Zero is a transportation safety initiative that was developed in the late 90s by Sweden, and the intention of the program historically has been to eliminate fatalities and serious and incapacitating injuries that happen via traffic crashes. So there have been a number of cities across the nation that have implemented Vision Zero programs. It's something that the city of Asheville has looked at more recently, and it was actually recommended in the Asheville in Motion plan that the city pursue the adoption of a Vision Zero policy. Today we are not asking you to recommend that we have a policy. We're just asking that we look towards establishing a task force. And the reason for that is, rather than bringing you a policy that's been drafted by staff, this task force would be a broad-based, diverse group of folks from both staff and community members, various nonprofits, and we would work with those folks to develop a policy or strategies that would look at the traffic crashes that are happening across our community and where they are, what types of crashes they are, and then develop an action plan that would seek to prioritize different areas and different strategies to deal with those. And so Vision Zero typically has multiple strategies under it that seek to address traffic crashes. Things could involve in education, roadway engineering, enforcement activities, encouragement activities. There's a whole number of strategies that can be implemented and targeted towards different types of crashes that we see in our community. So we see equity being kind of the centerpiece of this task force, because data has historically shown, and I'm not just talking about Asheville, but across the country, that that minority groups often see the bulk of the traffic violence that occurs. So traffic crashes appear to disproportionately happen in those communities, and so having a Vision Zero task force that seeks to integrate equity throughout all of the strategies is what we would be looking at. So that's kind of the summary. Essentially what we're recommending action, and we would bring it forward to city council on the 25th of September. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So Jessica, do you, and welcome to Asheville.
Thanks.
I've already welcomed you, but, what's the, timeframe of this task force? Or do you, do you think this is like a 2-year to come forward with some sort of policy? Do you think it's 5 years? Do you think it's 6 months? And also, following on to that, how do you envision the selection of this group being made? Is it a council thing, or is it gonna be,
Well, we would certainly.
I say this in my role as boards and commissions.
So I'll answer your second question first,
Okay.
if I might. So what we had talked about with the Multimodal Transportation Commission is coming to their next meeting in September, bringing them a draft list that staff put together that is probably a list of 20 to 25 different organizations that might have an interest in this topic. So, for example, neighborhood advisory, human relations commission, members of the Citizens Police Advisory, transit, greenways,
Yeah,
homelessness,
right, I see
all of that. And so we would work with them to see if there are any other folks that they think we should reach out to, and then we would begin the outreach to those groups to solidify interest, I guess. I think that it could be a longer term effort. I mean, typically Vision Zero groups are working on addressing traffic crashes for the long term. But I think within the first 6 to 12 months, the bulk of the work that the task force is gonna have would be kind of looking at the vision and goals, looking at our data. That's one thing. I mean, this is a data-driven process, so we need to ensure that our data is organized and it is in a transparent and just easily usable format so that we can see where our crashes are happening and why. So looking at that data and then using it to identify the strategies that would go into an action plan. I see all of that taking place within the first 6 to 12 months. And then from that, I think we'd be in a better position to determine what the long-term ongoing effort would be and who would be responsible for certain aspects of it. Some of it might be city, some of it might not be. So especially when you're talking about like education efforts or other things like that, it doesn't necessarily all have to be city staff performed. And it might be that some strategies are enacted initially and others aren't enacted on until later on down the road. But the idea is the task force would help define what that is.
So all you need from us today is support the movement.
Correct, yes.
I would support.
Yeah. Do you need a motion? So I would make a motion that the Public Safety Committee endorses the subject action around forming a Vision Zero task force and to move it forward to City Council at its September 25th meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Okay, now we've reached the public comment portion of our meeting. Anyone wishing to make public comment, come forward at this time. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Dee Williams. I live here in Asheville. I'm a native. We looked at the traffic stop data, and one of the things that I noticed was the second quarter, or at least the most recent one that's on the North Carolina Open Data Policing Portal showed an increase in traffic stops among African Americans here in Asheville. Asheville right now is the #1 place to be racially profiled by the police department. The chief spoke about Deborah Weitzel, I believe, who is a professor at NCCU. I have spoken to another academic named Dr. Frank Baumgartner, who's with the UNC Chapel Hill. We hope to have Dr. Baumgartner here. He's done 20 million traffic stops across the United States, and he's dubbed the name of his book that came out July 18, Suspect Citizens, meaning us, those of us who particularly are black. We're born suspect. And we also have that title ascribed to the NAACP Criminal Justice Initiative National. Let me just say that one of the things that we need to do more is data capture, like we've done with the police stop data. If you're not going to go by disparity, then you have a $300,000 thing called a disparity study that you've commissioned an outside firm to do, that you're spending money on, who uses the same principles that the traffic stop data uses. That's U.S. Census Bureau data. We're entitled to our opinions, but not our interpretation of the facts. This is data. The other thing is the Asheville Police Department needs to have performance-based metrics like the Durham Police Department does. In other words, you keep talking about crime, it's worse than it was. Well, how much worse? So what are you doing? In other words, if you're putting and deploying all these resources towards crime prevention, then you're not successful, okay? So either you are or you are not doing the job. So therefore, why are all these resources being deployed? Based on what? Are you policing poverty? Is that what it is? Because you are deploying to poor neighborhoods. So the logic does not hold up, and if it's performance-based, that means the police department is not performing very well because it's using a lot of resources and you're coming back with escalations of crime. Crime prevention is always not reactive but proactive. So with saying that, a lot of this does not make sense. We have a data initiative, need to let y'all know. We're going to be working with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. It's called the Social Determinants of Health, the Real Asheville Initiative. There are 4 areas. One is economics, the other is housing, education, criminal justice reform, police brutality. That's where we hope to bring Dr. Baumgartner here. I met with Ian Metz and some city councilors, Brian and Keith Young, city manager, Friday. And we were talking about Dr. Baumgartner's book, but I think he and Ian will be just exemplary to bring here. We look forward to that. We look forward to keeping this data all the time. This is the black community that's Isaac Coleman grantees. We're bringing all of them in. The initiative will be all over town. We'll have surveys like the Baltimore Police Department, Citizens did for its police department. So with that, I just want to say that the community does not trust the police department. Most of the people that you've had these community engagements with are funded organizations by the city of Asheville. Always follow the money, because I do. It tells you everything you need to know. So we need to have some more independent input into the process and not funded organizations to do community engagement. Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vijay Kapoor. I live in the city of Asheville. Obviously, I'm on the city council as well. Mr. Chairman, if I go over 3 minutes, or Madam Vice Mayor, please feel free to bang the gong here. I sent out an email this morning on an issue dealing with crime and violent crime across the city of Asheville. And given that the Public Safety Committee was meeting today, I thought it would be appropriate for me to come and just talk a little bit about, as a citizen, some of the concerns I have and some of the concerns I'm seeing. Today was the first day of school in the county. I took my daughter to 2nd grade, and it got me thinking. Those of you may remember the name Derek Lee Jr. Derek was killed on January 1st in a drive-by shooting in Lee Walker Heights. He was 12, and he would have been starting 7th grade today at Valley Springs. He was the 9th murder this year, and he was the 3rd murder of a child in Asheville in 2018. And despite many people witnessing Derek's murder, no eyewitnesses come forward, and consequently, the police haven't been able to arrest anybody at this point. No one seems to be talking about Derek right now. Those of us on city council, we get a lot of emails, 15, 20 emails a day. I only, and I'm not sure if you all are the same, but I only received one letter about Derek, and that was to the Mountain Express. We receive emails about homestays, about search regulations, developments, and bears, but only one dealing with Derek's killing. I spoke with Derek's grandmother last week. She is understandably distraught about what is about not hearing about about Derek, and just apparently from my perspective, kind of the lack of discussion we're having in the community about his situation. The chief showed you all some data numbers today about the significant surge in violent crime. We're seeing that across the city, this is on top of the 13% that she showed you year to date, is on top of a 28% increase from 2015 to 2017. And we're starting to see that in our communities as well. The South French Broad River Neighborhood Association invited me and a couple of police officers to talk about the issues they're having in their communities. APD every month has monthly CompStat meetings where they go over crime data and they determine responses. We get invited to those. I attended one in June and another one recently in August. I've been very impressed with the way that APD collects and analyzes the crime data. They do it in a very detailed way. They go around the room and talk about what are the impacts and where it's happening. And you can see from even a cursory review of the data that most of the violent crime is concentrated in the less affluent parts of the city. In July, I walked around 2 public housing communities and talked with people who were outside their homes. And many of them, were distrustful of the police, but they also wanted the police there to help reduce the violence that's happening in their communities. And so the big question here is what is the long-term solution? And from my perspective, a meaningful start would be to leverage, to create a comprehensive plan that leverages community resources alongside police resources. Respectfully, I think this is the committee that should be taking the lead in that, given that it's our public safety committee. And I think we need to pull together effective community groups, stakeholders such as the Asheville Housing Authority and city schools, and listen to the folks who are being impacted by this crime, because oftentimes the individuals who are in the most need, they don't contact us, and they're afraid of speaking out, and they really need a seat at the table. So I just want to close with this. Behind every statistic or every number that the chief showed up there, and every number in every one of these reports is someone who was hurt in a violent crime, someone who is suffering, and these are our neighbors, our friends, and our kids. And from my perspective, it is unacceptable to me, whether it's for Derek Lee or whether it's for others, that it seems like the community has forgotten about folks like him. And I am asking this committee respectfully, and will do my best as a council member as well, to make sure that we are dealing with and we create a comprehensive response to address the violent crime issue that is happening in our city. Thank you.
Jerry, either of you.
Anyone else?
Someone else going to?
Go for it.
My name is Susan Walton, and I'm an Asheville resident. I've been here for 42 years. And I appreciate the work you're doing. I appreciate people coming in and giving their time. And I want to say that we cannot hear you. It's like a little club. You sit there, the police chief stands there, you kind of talk to each other. And I am older and I'm having trouble hearing. Some people who are not older have trouble hearing. It's really, really hard. And as I've been sitting here, I was thinking maybe there's something mechanically that we could come up with, such as when someone is close, like you three are close to the speaker up there, it would be natural that you just use your regular speaking voice. But it doesn't work for back here. You're turned around, we can't lip read you. It's really difficult. So my plea is, we are interested, we do care for Asheville, we want it to be a better place. Make it easier for us to hear. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rondell Anderson, President of Fraternal Order Police. Thank you all for the job that you do and for volunteering to be on this committee. I come to these a lot of times and think, I'm not going to say anything. Then I hear stuff that's so outrageously said that I go, how can I just sit there and let that go by? You hear the police are getting blamed because of the crime in high crime neighborhoods. They get blamed if they go in there and try to stop it. Anything the police does after the report that the chief gave, no matter what the police does, it's all the police fault. Why are your efforts not working? And I've asked that question as a police officer, and I've talked to a lot of pastors and a lot of community groups. What are you doing for the high crime areas? I worked those high crime areas most of my career. I've very rarely, if ever, seen church groups in there. I've never seen people that are here in this audience, and I've never seen them in housing complexes. And I've spent a lot of days, a lot of nights. So to say, what is the police doing? You know, we've got to all work together. It's everybody. You've seen the police, they've got extra officers in that area. And why are they in there? Just because they like that area, because of the people who live there, because they're mandated to be there because it's a high crime area. Same thing when I worked Vice. Years ago, there's 15 to 20 hookers out on the street at night and day. If you did your stats back in, you'd say the police department is adversely arresting females because we were down there constantly. Now they're gone from the streets. Patton Avenue, we had a problem with young kids. If you looked at the stats back in, you go, man, the actual police department, and it's in the paper back in, they're harassing the young kids on Patton Avenue. But you couldn't get up and down Patton Avenue on Friday, Saturday night. We put a stop to that. It's where there's crimes where they are needed. To try to insinuate that the police department is out here with a goal of suppressing anybody, any neighborhood, is ridiculous. And for someone to stand up here and say, what you're doing is failing in these neighborhoods, you gotta say, what are we doing in these neighborhoods? If you're not working with the police, if you're not working together, then this community is failing. The police are too easy a target to blame everything on. Domestic violence, crime, police fault. It's a community together. And to try to disparage people that have put money in, it's to follow the money. You know, the FOP, we spend over $15,000 a year in community programs. Is that bad? Is that corrupt? You know, follow the money, that's the most ridiculous thing. If they're wanting to help, I don't care where the money comes from, what they're doing, for whatever, help these groups, help provide these programs. But to stand up here and sit there as an officer representing the men and women in the police department, hear the police department continually condemned for their efforts. Who else is doing anything? I've been there, I've been in these complexes, I've not seen groups in there. We never had to get out of the way and stand back. Well, these groups, we were with the kids today. Every time I went to something there, it was the police department providing a picnic, providing the kids to the ball game, providing this stuff. So to get up here and try to put the police department at fault at this and not work together as a community and not taking your part of it not working. It's easy to say, we blame them, what are you doing? We're up here criticizing the police, that's what we're doing. Stop that and come work with us and work together in these places. That's what needs to be done. Thank you so much for your time.
Anyone else? Okay, we're adjourned.